Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 4th of December 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, also, just before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis, so I believe you can find something useful here for yourselves, guys. So feel free to visit us here on jfdbank.com, and click on the research tab above here. So, but right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the FTSE100. Now, I talked about this index recently, and basically what I was saying that in order for us to consider lower areas, we need to see a nice good break below the low of yesterday and below this key area of support near the 7,140 level. So this morning we saw the index pushing a little bit higher, almost testing its today's pivot point, and then reversing back to the downside. Now this weakness came together with the strength of the pound. So we know that the pound has strengthened across the board. But we'll have a look at those, some of the pound pairs after this. But for now, the main thing to consider here is, of course, some of these key support levels. So the first one is, of course, to watch the 7,140 that I just mentioned. We need to see a nice good daily close below this level in order to consider further declines. For now, we remain neutral. Even it's difficult to talk about the upside, because for the upside, ideally, and this is, well, initially this morning I was talking about this area right here, roughly between the 7,324 and the 7,344 zone. Of course, this could be a nice area to watch in order to consider after which we could consider higher levels. But you can see that we could be missing out on a bit of a territory right here. But don't get me wrong, it could be a little bit of a tricky one, because in a way it could travel higher, find some resistance near one of these EMAs, and then reverse back to the downside. So that's why this area here will be that somewhat more of a comfort zone here, for a cautious zone, after which we could consider higher levels. If it pushes above the 7,197 zone, or we can round it up towards the 7,200 area, then yes, it may travel higher, but as I said, the index could find some resistance near one of these EMAs by the time it decides to approach this territory here. So that's why we're going to be very careful here with the upside, and especially if the pound continues to strengthen, then we could see some more weakness on the FTSE. Jumping into another index, and that's Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, I looked at this one recently, and basically what I was saying that if we get a nice rejection here near this upside support line, that was basically, I looked at this one until it was still trading above this upside line. But if we would get a rejection, then yes, we could start looking for higher levels again. But we saw this strong sell-off here, and the sell-off yesterday continued. So looking at the index right now, looking at the cash index right now, we can see that the price is roughly around here, roughly around this 27,675 mark, which previously I talked about, and basically I talked about it as our potential target. If we see a break of this upside line, of course we saw the index overshooting this level here. So now this area here could be an interesting one to watch, because if, for example, example, if it continues to hold, we could see something like this here, where we could see another round of selling if, like I said, if this area here continues to hold at 27,675. The upside here, well, it could be a little bit difficult with the upside, but in a way, what we could try to maybe keep an eye on here is, of course, this little territory right here near the 27,836.35 zone. That's marked by the inside swing high, the intraday swing high of the 20th of November. So if we do get a push above this, then we may consider higher levels. The only thing is that we'll be very careful and cautious here because, well, I mean, this in a way could open the path towards the, for example, the 28,110 zone, which is marked by the high of the 2nd of December, or even we could see this one traveling a little bit further north. I mean, maybe revisiting the all-time high, and the all-time high here. And let me just quickly put this one on the chart on the main and on the main index here, and the Dow Jones. The high was near the 28,175 mark. So again, with the upside, it's currently a little bit trickier because any move higher could be seen as a temporary correction, to the upside here before another leg of selling. So that's why, guys, be very careful here near this 27,675. If the index decides to travel higher, keep an eye on the 27,836.35 zone. Now, if we get a push above this, now this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers buttons. But if not, if it doesn't push here above this, then, well, I mean, like I said, we'll be very careful here, and in a way we may see some selling again. But for now, all eyes are on this 27,675 level. Jumping into a few pairs now very quickly. AUDCHF now, after a strong sell-off this morning, we saw the pair recovering all of its losses, and you can see how, looking at this 4-hour chart, you can see how it overshot its the lower bound of the Bollinger Bands, and it tested its S2, which is roughly around the 0.6711 zone, and then retraced back to the upside, and is now currently kind of trading and not far from the highs of today. Now, all eyes are on this level here, the 0.6765. If we do get a nice push above this, now this is where we could consider a possible move back up here towards the current highest point of this week, and that's roughly near the 0.6795-96 zone. So we'll keep a close eye on this one, but in order to consider, like I said, this move higher, we need to see a push above the 0.6765. This would also place the rate above all of its EMAs here, mainly the 200 EMA, and like I said, yep, we could consider a further move higher. So keep your eyes on this one. Let's see how this is going to play out. For now, everything's kind of looking quite interesting. I'm not saying that this is bullish or bearish. We're probably neutral here, but if we do get a push above this level right here, then yes, we will consider a possible move towards the high of this week. USDCAD now, something to keep an eye on, and this morning I talked about this one, and basically I was saying that keep an eye on this upside line here. If it gets a break, then we may see a further move lower, but the only thing is for us to get excited about the downside. Ideally, we would need to see a drop below the 1.325150 zone, and only then we could aim for lower levels. In addition to that, we'll keep an eye on the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. A break below that could just confirm a possible further slide. Don't get me, in about 30 minutes we do get the interest rate decision from the Bank of Canada, so something to keep an eye on. Yes, guys, like I said, from the technical perspective, if we do get a drop below this 1.3251, then we could consider lower areas, but we'll be very careful. Ideally, we would like to see maybe a daily close below this area, but again, like I said, we'll be very careful. Try to not to predict the market before the news. Try to react to the news, because again, you might get it wrong. It might then wipe you out, so be very careful. Of course, always have your stop loss in place, guys, and yep, just keep an eye on this one. For now, we are keeping a close eye on these levels here. Like I said, on the downside, the 1.3251, on the upside, the 1.3328 zone, because that's the highest point of November, and in order to get comfortable with the upside, we need need to see a break above that level first, and then we will aim for higher levels. GBPUSD, so pushing up to the upside nicely. I talked about this one this morning, and basically I told you guys we were still during this morning video we were still hanging around below the 1.3013 level, and what I was saying that in order to get comfortable with the upside, we need to see a push above this barrier right here, which is the highest point of October, near the 1.3013 mark. We did get that perfect move higher, so the pair is drifting to the upside here. And the only thing is that now we could see a bit of correction here at some point, but let's put it that way. As long as it remains above this 1.3013 zone, we will continue targeting the upside. And on the upside, we do have a nice level here near the 1.3185, 86 zone, and that's basically the highest point of May. And something to keep an eye on, of course, for now, given the steep uprise that we had here, we may see a small correction back down, but still the main direction for us right now is to the upside, unless it starts dropping back below the 1.3013. This is going to be our little neutral territory right here, but if it starts dropping below this upside line, then we will consider a possible move lower in the short run. So let's keep an eye on this one. GBP Euro. So probably you look at normally Euro GBP, but this is something slightly different. Let's put it that way, just the opposite way around. But last time I looked at this one, and you can see that the arrows have not moved for quite a while here now. So last time we were testing the upper side of this channel, of this rising channel, and I was saying that in a way, if it continues to hold, we could see a nice reversal here back to the downside. We could see a test of the lower bound of the rising channel, and then maybe a push back to the upside here again. This is exactly what happened. For now, at this point here, we saw this morning the pair pushing above the upper bound here, above the upper bound of this channel, rising channel. But as you can see, the 4-hour candle formed a doji here, and a shooting star, somebody could say. But now. Now basically the big question here is, can this push further north, or actually are we going to go for a bit of correction here? Now ideally we would like to see a bit of correction, just because we would like to see the pair kind of maintained within the within this rising channel. But in a way, if this starts drifting lower and drops below the 1.1764, because this is the level that in a way it could test, and that's the high of the 27th of November. It could drift a little bit lower, but what we're going to be keeping a close eye on is going to be this little territory right here near the 1.174645 mark, and that's marked by the high of the 3rd of December. So in a way, if it gets a hold up around here, we could see a nice reversal here, a push back to the upside. Of course, we will continue monitoring this this rising channel pattern, and it will be quite interesting to see if it actually can maintain if the channel can maintain the most of the price action here. So like I said, let's for now let's keep an eye on it. But if this pair decides to drop below the 1.1745, this is where we could consider a possible move towards this lower bound of the rising channel. Of course, the overall trend is still to the upside. But if this fails, if this lower bound starts failing here, then in a way this could raise concerns here for the bulls, and more probably bears could start joining in here. But again, for now, it seems that the downside is slightly off the table, unless it's a small correction first. And the last pair for this session is going to be euro dollar. Now this one's popping nicely to the upside. This is what I talked about this morning. Basically what I was saying, that we needed to see a nice good pop above the 1.1093 level before examining higher levels. We did get a nice pop. We did get a close of a 4-hour candle above this barrier here. And now the big question here is, can the pair stay above this level? If today it stays above this level, above the 1.1093, there could be a good chance we could see a continuation move higher here. and more buyers could potentially drive the pair further north. And initially what we're going to be targeting here is the 1.1140, and that's basically, as you can see, previously it acted as a good area of support, also resistance, so a good level to keep an eye on. But for now, the big question here is, can the pair stay above the 1.1093 level? Of course, we still have the full US session to go through, don't get me wrong, anything can happen, but if it does stay, then yes, we will continue staying somewhat bullish here. So we're carefully bullish, but still bullish. In terms of the downside, well, in a way, if it drops back below the 1.1093, all this territory will be somewhat of a neutral one for us. But if it starts drifting back below the 1.1067 zone here, or in a way, actually, let me just reiterate that. Let me just adjust this level here. Now that's going to be 65. That's slightly better level here. The 1.1065. If we see a drop below this, then yes, we could consider lower areas. The only thing is that, as I've mentioned this morning, the level for us, the main level to watch, is going to be the 1.1043. Because if we see a drop below this, then yep, we will get a little bit more comfortable with further declines here. So for now, of course, the main scenario is more to the upside, but let's keep an eye on this 1.1093 level and see if the pair actually closes the day, or should I say it closes the daily candle above this area. So let's keep an eye on this one, guys. Okay, I really hope you found it useful, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching until the end. If you want to join me tomorrow morning, as always, at my Traders Espresso, that's 7 o'clock GMT time. For now, I hope you have a beautiful trading evening if you're still trading. If you're finished, and yep, those who will be finished as well. So have a wonderful evening, guys, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow at my Traders Espresso, 7 o'clock GMT time. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.